Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program. The Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program is a 30-minute radio intervention support program that is meant to provide continuous instruction to keep you academically engaged during this stay-at-home period, as well as preparing you, our 6th, 9th, and 12th graders for the pending Liberia Primary School Certificate Exam, Liberia Junior High School Certificate Exam, and West Africa Senior Secondary Certificate Exam when the time comes. Also, in addition to this academic support, the program is meant to provide psychosocial support for learners, teachers, and parents, and also tips on how you as parents and teachers can provide support to your students and children at home. Now, let's join our teacher for today's lesson.
Hello, learners. Our subject today is Literature in English for Grade 12. And our topic is an analytical summary of the non-African drama She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith. Please take your pencil, pen, and copybooks and get ready for today's lesson. Again, welcome and let's learn. Lesson objectives. By the end of the lesson, learners will be able to formulate personal perspectives of the drama. Utilize context clues and/or a dictionary to define vocabulary. Compare and contrast characters. Your presenters today are Marie Herring-Menza and Hassan Bangura Sr. Now, learners, please listen as we present an analytical summary of the non-African drama She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith.
We give the background to the drama. She Stoops to Conquer is a late 18th century play written by Oliver Goldsmith, an Irish author. It is a play of mistaken identities, practical jokes, and plots within plots. She Stoops to Conquer can be described as a comedy of manners in which high-born characters make fools of themselves, trying to preserve their dignity, when in actuality they behave in ways more fitting of the lower classes. Perhaps the play retells the playwrights as Oliver Goldsmith's own experience abroad, basking across Europe after barely obtaining a college degree, as can be deduced from the following memorable lines. Let schoolmasters puzzle their brains with grammar and nonsense and learning. Good liquor, I stoutly maintain, gives genius a better discerning. Plot account. She Stoops to Conquer starts with a prologue in which an actor mourns the death of the classical low comedy at the altar of sentimental, mawkish comedy. He hopes that Dr. Goldsmith can remedy this problem through the play about to be presented. Country gentleman Mr. Hardcastle wishes to marry off his daughter, Kate, to his very respectable friend's son, young Mallow. An exciting romantic night is expected at Mr. Hardcastle's country home for this purpose. Kate is to be visited by her father's choice of a husband for her, young Mallow, the son of Sir Charles Mallow, Mr. Hardcastle's oldest friend. Kate has not yet seen her intended. With him is to come Mr. Hastings to call on his sweetheart, Constance Neville, Mr. Hardcastle's niece, and Kate's dearest friend. Mrs. Hardcastle hopes for a match between her son, Tony Lumpkin, Kate, her half-time brother, and Constance, though both Constance and Tony detest each other. Marlowe and Hastings, having lost their way during the post-chase trip from the city, stop for direction at the Three Pigeons Tavern, where Tony, as usual, is whiling away the evening with drink, flirtation, and practical jokes. On hearing the traveler's destination, Tony gets the inspiration for what he conceives to be a great prank. He tells Marlowe and Hastings that they can never reach the Hardcastle home at night over the dangerous path that lies before them, and that since the Three Pigeons is crowded, they had best go a mile further to Buck's Head, easily identified by a pair of horns on the door. He advises them to drive into the yard and call stoutly about you. The young men thank him and leave, unaware that Tony has, in reality, sent them to the Hardcastle's home. Upon arrival, Marlowe and Hastings believe Mr. Hardcastle to be the innkeeper, and they order him briskly about, demanding supper and ignoring his attempt at host infallibility. Marlowe insists upon going upstairs to inspect his bed personally, and while he is absent, Constance walks into the room. When Hastings asks what she is doing at the inn, she exposes the hoax. Hastings warns Constance that the sensitive Marlowe must not be allowed to learn the truth, for he might leave at once, humiliated because of his rude conduct, and so spoil their plans. These plans provide for the elopement of Hastings and Constance just as soon as she can get possession of her fortune in jewels, which Mrs. Hardcastle has carefully locked up. Until she does so, they decide to continue to carry out Tony's fraud. Hastings tells Marlowe that by chance, Constance and Kate also are guests at the inn. But the meeting of Marlowe and Kate is hardly auspicious, for the bashful blushes and stammers stupid compliments. Kate later tells her father that she will have none of him. His awkward address, his bashful manner, his hesitating timidity struck me at first sight. Her father is amazed at her words. Says he, "Then your first sight deceived you, child, for I think him one of the most brazen sight that ever astonished my senses. He met me with a loud voice, a lordly air, and a familiarity that made my blood freeze." He and Kate agreed to wait further development before pronouncing judgment on Marlowe's true nature, and Kate disguises herself as a maid. Marlowe, looking at her closely for the first time, assumes her to be a female of the other class, with which he has never been ill at ease, and he becomes the assured gallant. He tries to kiss her. Kate protests. "Pray, sir, keep your distance. I am sure you did not treat Miss Hardcastle that was here a few minutes ago in this obstreperous manner." Marlowe replies airily, "Who cares for Miss Hardcastle? A mere awkward swinting thing. But you." He tries again to embrace her. Kate escapes, but not before the irate Mr. Hardcastle has arrived to see the scuffle. He demands that Marlowe leaves his home at once. Marlowe tells him to bring his bill and make no more words about it. Mr. Hardcastle replies, "Young man, from your father's letter to me, I was taught to expect a well-bred, modest man. But now I find you no better than a coxcomb and a bully. But Sir Charles will be down here presently, and you shall hear more of it. In bewilderment, Marlowe calls to the barmaid Kate to clear up the muddle. She tells him that he is indeed in the Hardcastle home, and that she lives there as a poor relation. Marlowe, covered with mortification, is prepared to leave at once, but begins to realize his love for the maid, and Kate begins to suspect that he is, after all, quite bearable. In the meantime, the romance of Hastings and Constance is not doing well. To clear the path for their elopement, the helpful Tony, who wants Constance out of the way because she is a threat to his liberty, has stolen her jewels from Mrs. Hardcastle and has given them to Hastings. For safekeeping, Hastings has passed them along to Marlowe. Marlowe, who has thought Mrs. Hardcastle only the landlady of the inn, has turned them over to her to take care of. She thus learns of Constance's intended elopement. To put an end to this plan and forward her hope that Tony shall be Constance's husband, Mrs. Hardcastle orders Constance off to her Aunt Pedigree's, summoning Tony to drive Constance and herself there at once. Tony agrees, and the three starts off into the night. Then Sir Charles arrives. He joins with Mr. Hardcastle in a hearty laugh over his son's bewilderment, though they assume that the youth is wholly aware of the truth. But young Marlowe still thinks the maid and Kate are different persons, and when tweeted by Mr. Hardcastle over his ardent behavior towards his daughter, replies, "By all that's just and true, sir, I never gave Miss Hardcastle the slightest mark of my attachment." He leaves the room, and now the fathers are completely bewildered. They ask Kate if Marlowe has proposed love to her. "I must say he has," she declares. The fathers decide to watch when the young folk meet again, and they hear Marlowe, still believing Kate to be the poor relation, declare his love for her and offer marriage. The two men come forward to reproach him for his hypocrisy, and Hardcastle says, "What have you to say for yourself now, young man? You can address a lady in private and deny it in public. You have one story for us and another for my daughter." Marlowe then learns that the maid, in reality, is Kate. He can only say, "Oh, the devil!" The tangle now unraveled. The young people are happily betrothed. Good fortune also comes to Hastings and Constance. The irrepressible Tony, instead of taking his mother and Constance to Aunt Pedigree's home, drives them for hours around the Hardcastle's grounds, jouncing through every mud hole to make the trip more miserable, before finally bringing the carriage to a halt at the end of the Hardcastle garden. The exhausted Mrs. Hardcastle is in no mood to reproach Tony or even to oppose the match between Hastings and Constance, although she does insist upon retaining Constance's jewels. A condition of the custody of Constance's fortune, however, is that the jewels shall be released to her if Tony, upon coming of age, refuses to marry her. Mr. Hardcastle then tells Tony, "While I thought concealing your age was likely to conduce to your improvement, I concord with your mother's desire to keep it secret. But since I find that she turns it to a wrong use, I must now declare that you have been of age these 3 months. Then you will see the first use I will make of my liberty." He formally renounces Constance, removing the last barrier to the double match. Constance and Hastings, her true love, then get engaged.
There, learners, you just heard the analytical summary of the non-African drama She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith, which is a WASP text for grade 12. Let us now visit the characters.
Mr. Hardcastle.
Mr. Hardcastle. He is the head patriarch of the Hardcastle family and owner of the estate where the play is set. He is the father of Kate Hardcastle, who young Marlowe and Hastings mistake for an innkeeper. Hardcastle is a realist and level-headed countryman who loves everything old and hates the town and follies that come with it. He cares for his daughter Kate, but insists that she dresses plainly in his presence. It is he who arranges for Marlowe to come to the countryside to marry his daughter.
Mrs. Dorothy Hardcastle.
Mrs. Dorothy Hardcastle. She is the matriarch of the Hardcastle family, wife to Mr. Hardcastle, and mother to Tony from an earlier marriage. She is a corrupt and eccentric character. Her behavior is either over the top or far-fetched, providing some of the play's comedy. Unlike her husband, she yearns to sample life in high society. Mrs. Hardcastle also values material possession and hopes to match her son by her first husband with her niece Constance Neville in order to keep her niece's inheritance in the family.
Young Charles Marlowe.
Young Charles Marlowe. He is a promising young man who comes to the country to woo the Hardcastle's pretty daughter, Kate. He is a scholar with many good qualities who is designed for employment in the service of the country. Young Marlowe is the pivotal and central male character in the play, used by the playwright Oliver Goldsmith to satirize England's preoccupation with an overemphasis on class distinctions. He is extremely shy around refined young ladies, although he is completely at ease and even forward with women of humble birth and working class status.
Kate Hardcastle.
Kate Hardcastle, pretty daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle. She is wooed by young Marlowe. She is called Miss Hardcastle in the play. Kate respects her father, dressing plainly in his presence to please him. She seeks in marriage a compatible and companionable husband, not money or status. In an effort to ascertain Marlowe's true feelings, she pretends to be a barmaid to get him to announce that he loves her despite her low social position. Kate Hardcastle conducts projects as she stoops to conquer heroine of the play. She worries that custom will force her into being a boring, loveless marriage, and so seeks to find in the overly respectable gentleman, young Marlowe, a man she might enjoy. Please listen to some health information.
Coronavirus spreads via droplets. When the person cough or sneeze, the droplets land on surfaces and are picked up on the hands of others and spread further. People catch the virus when they touch their infected hands to their mouth, nose, or eyes. It follows that the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself is keep your hands clean by washing them frequently with soap and water or hand sanitizer.
Welcome back, learners.
Tony Lumpkin.
Tony Lumpkin, son of Mrs. Hardcastle by her first husband, Square Lumpkin, and stepson to Mr. Hardcastle, also the half-brother of Kate Hardcastle. Tony Lumpkin is a mischievous, uneducated playboy and a very consumptive figure, a fat, ale-drinking young man who has little ambition except to play practical jokes and to visit the local tavern whenever he has a mind, frightens the minds and worries the kittens. It is Tony's initial deception of Marlowe for a joke which sets up the plot. He goes to great effort to help Constance and Hastings in their plans to leave the country because he despises her. Tony's freewheeling ways of drinking and tomfoolery is probably because of the huge inheritance that awaits him when he comes of age.
Constance Neville.
Constance Neville. She is an orphan and the niece and ward of Mrs. Hardcastle, who holds Miss Neville's inheritance of jewels in her possession until she becomes legally qualified to take possession of it, and the cousin of Kate. Her aunt, Mrs. Hardcastle, wishes her to marry Tony Lumpkin, but Constance wants to marry Hastings. Constance schemes with Hastings and Tony to get the jewels so she can then flee to France with her admirer. She is projected as a focused and determined lady. She follows her heart and also insists on her legal inheritance without bowing to her aunt's wish to marry her cousin Tony.
George Hastings.
George Hastings, a close friend of Charles Marlowe and an admirer of Constance Neville. He is a decent fellow who is willing to marry Constance even without her money. Hastings is also an educated man who cares deeply about Constance with the intention of fleeing to France with her. His companionship to Charles Marlowe boosts Marlowe's confidence in dealing with Kate. Learners, you just met the characters. Now let us summarize the themes of the play.
Class and bias.
Class and bias. She Stoops to Conquer is not explicitly a study on class, but the theme is central to it. The decisions the characters make and their perspectives on one another are all largely based on what class they are a part of. Where Tony openly loves low-class people like the drunks in The Three Pigeons, Marlowe must hide his love of low-class women from his father and society. His dynamic relationship with Kate and the way he treats her is defined by who he thinks she is at the time, from high-class Kate to a poor barmaid to a woman from a good family but with no fortune.
Appearance and reality.
Appearance and reality. Much of the comedy of Goldsmith's play depends between appearance and reality. After all, Marlowe's misconception of Mr. Hardcastle's house as an inn drives the narrative action in the first place. Ironically, Goldsmith's comedy allows appearance to lead to the discovery of reality. Kate's deception leads her to discover Marlowe's true nature. Falling in love when he thinks her a barmaid, he declares his decision to defy society and marry her in spite of the difference in their social class. Her falsehood allows him to relax with her and reveal his true self.
Money breeds indolence.
Money breeds indolence. Tony Lumpkin will get £1,500 a year when he comes of age. Thus, without financial worries, he devotes himself to ale and a do-nothing life.
Deceit, trickery.
Deceit, trickery. Much of the play's comedy comes from trickery played by various characters. The most important deceits come from Tony, including his lie about Hardcastle's home and his shame of driving his mother and Constance around in circles. Learners, we have come to the end of the summary of the themes in the play. I hope you have enjoyed the summary. Let us look at some vocabulary. 1. Comedy. Comedy. 2. Basking. Basking. 3. Bias. Bias. And 4. Deception. Deception. Remember, you can use a dictionary or go to www.dictionary.com to help you find the meaning of the words. Now let us do a guided activity. Please take out your notebooks and your pencils and pens. Recall information from the summary and answer the following questions. 1. Explain the meaning and significance of the title. Explain the meaning and significance of the title. 2. How does the device of dramatic irony facilitate the play's major themes and comedy? How does the device of dramatic irony facilitate the play's major themes and comedy? And 3, define what town and country mean in the context of this play, using characters as examples. You are listening to the Teaching by Radio lesson in Literature in English for Grade 12. This is a Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 radio presentation. I hope you were able to get all of your answers. Now, let us review your answers. Number 1, explain the meaning and significance of the title.
The meaning and significance of the title expresses Goldsmith's ironic view of humanity. While we pretend to be of impeachable high class, we all have a low base side that we should celebrate rather than try to ignore.
Number 2, how does the device of dramatic irony facilitate the play's major themes and comedy?
The play is a masterpiece of dramatic irony, which is a device where the audience has information and knowledge that the characters do not. When Tony plays a practical joke on Marlowe and Hastings, the audience learns secrets that will grow more complicated and hence create confusion that leads to hilarious situations.
Number 3, define what town and country mean in the context of this play using characters as examples.
There is a strong conflict between town and the country set up from the very opening of the play when Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle argue about the virtues and vices of town and country. The town is associated with several elements: wealth and pretension, education, style, and in the broader sense, living life itself. The country is associated with simplicity and a slower, more considered way of life. The characters who come from town are certainly to be admired, and yet they are shown to have serious faults, particularly in terms of their pretensions and cruelty towards Hardcastle when they think he is a landlord and not their host. Hardcastle is willing to forgive everyone despite how he is treated. The best character overall is Kate, who shows moderation in her way to find refined simplicity by embracing the both worlds.
Learners, there you have it, your questions and answers. You are listening to the Teaching by Radio lesson in Literature in English for grade 12, the analytical summary of the non-African drama She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith. Great job. Homework assignment. Reread and watch the enactment of the drama and formulate your own questions. Reread and watch the enactment of the drama and formulate your own questions. You can find the drama at www.fulltextarchive.com and watch the enactment on www.youtube.com. Thank you, learners. Please continue to study until we meet next time on the following radio stations: Firestone Radio, 89.5. ECOWAS Radio, 91.5. Cool FM, 91.9. ELBC, 99.9. Truth FM, 96.1. Kings FM 88.5, City FM 90.2. Again, we have been your presenters, Madi Herring Menza and Hassan Bangura Sr. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Amen.